Friday, June the 21st, 2019, Midsummer's Day, the longest day. And here I am unusually in Essex, about to undertake a walk down to Brightlingsea, which is 6 miles, then take a ferry across the Colne and walk to West Mersea, which is another 5. So today's walk should be about 11-12 miles. Thankfully it's a decent day, mixed clouds and sun, reasonable temperature as well. It's about 12:30 now, and today's walk is a GPX route, no instructions, pretty flat, so you can't get lost really, I don't think. Anyway, can't remember what walk number this is, might be 244, let me just check. Nope, it's actually 247. So like I say, it's 12:30 now. I need to ring ahead to book the ferry because it's off peak season now. So I'm going to anticipate getting there for 4. If I get there earlier, got time to kill. No worries. It is the longest day after all. Several minutes after leaving Wivenhoe station, you reach the Colne, and the Rose and Crown pub, which is well frequented today. Green King pub. Initially walking past some holiday homes, stroke permanent residences and some moorings. Lots of new developments and building work going on around here at the moment. Transformation of Wivenhoe. Classic Essex tidal scenery here, looking back towards the station. Information panel here about what used to be Cook's shipyard site. So good use of former brownfield land. Passing by Wivenhoe Sailing Club. So I'm now leaving Wivenhoe behind me, so I need to ring ahead and get that taxi booked, I think. That is also typical of the Essex countryside. Herds of wild beasts, aka cattle. Look at that lot. And there's a lone straddler ahead of me there. Signs of a bit of an industrial past over the river there. It's pretty much like this all the way now down to Brightlingsea, I believe. Just booked the ferry. Last one at this time of year, interestingly, is 4 o'clock. The one prior is 3 o'clock. I think 3 PM might be pushing it as I'm filming. You never know, but if I get there nice and leisurely, can have my lunch down there. That's the goal. Parting shot of Wivenhoe. Can hear reed buntings over there. Oh, sorry, not reed buntings. Whitethroats, I think. As can be seen, the cattle do get up here as well. So the fact it's a storm bank offers no protection. Looks like they're wanting to get over the other side and into the river. Pretty dodgy ground that. A number of seats are available thus far. This one donated by somebody called Sid Cox, God rest his soul. Been gone 12 years already. Looking back at Wivenhoe, that unusual bell tower has just come to my attention. Never seen one like that before. Pleasant cooling breeze today as well. I hope that's not interfering with commentary too much. 1 o'clock now, 1 mile down. Get a good idea here of the tidal nature of the River Colne and the mud stroke sand, hence the factory over there in the distance. Now passing through a rare bit of tree-lined walking, predominantly Essex oaks as well. I think they're sessile oaks or whatever you call them, sessile. I rather suspect here, and confirmed by the map, that I'm following an old track bed, railway track. On the left there's a dyke which has got all the hallmarks of a railway line. Very close to the river though, probably closer now than when the actual railway was operating. An ancient fence post there indicating that I am on the railway line. I've actually encountered 2 people on bikes down this path so far, which doesn't bode well. Every now and again on your right hand side you'll come to a little opening with a seat there, so well provided for respite. We've come away from the old rail line now, as evidenced by those fence posts. It probably went on that embankment right across the bay. Wonderful field of red poppies ahead of me there. Yep, you can see the abutment there of the old bridge crossing this section of water. Further reminders of the industrial heritage here. As you can see on my left, would have been linked up to those sandworks, taking the sand down to the river, possibly the railway as well. Anyway, road transport these days. Views back towards Wivenhoe way. Public footpath here continues up this drive. The driveway is to a property known as the Ford, and it's here where you used to be able to walk across and save yourself a hell of a lot of time. But as you can see, even at low tide, just can't do it. Yeah, probably about 100 metres there. Shame. Just been speaking to a local, and that little track on the other bank there is what used to be the river crossing from a point just near the jetty on this side, so that's not been navigable by foot anyway for 30 years, he says. So it's a byway, so it has to remain. That's why it's on the OS map. But parish council responsibility or county council responsibility, there's no funds to dredge it, and the silting process around this area apparently is getting worse, so it's likely to never be done. Anyway, good to know. So here we are, heading up towards the ford. Wonderful treehouse stroke garden house in the grounds of this property on my left. Yeah, you can get a better view of the old river crossing here. About 100 metres, instead of which you now have to do quite a detour. Still, plenty of time today to do it. There is a path on my left, which according to the local I was just talking to, will also get you to the same area, but I'm going to stick with the seawall, particularly in light of those cattle. An old wreck down there, church coming into view in the distance. Just realised that the bird I was seeking earlier to describe is not the white throat, of course, but sedge warblers. There are a number of them in here, as well as reed buntings I've noticed. That is a wonderful dandelion head, if that's what it is. It's a kind of browny colour. Never seen them like that before. But the surrounding flower is not dandelion either. So if anyone can describe what that is, well done. Not much of that old vessel left. You can see the shape of it just about. So this is where the path that I pointed out earlier comes out. Basically cuts off the corner. So if you're dead short for time, you could save yourself a few minutes, not much more. Sixpenny Brook Sluice. Now at this juncture you can take a left, cutting out this section of land, or follow the river again to the right with the church on the hill. I'm going to take the left-hand version just to be different today. This has the potential to be the overgrown version of the route though. Now get a better view of the church, whatever it is. Strategically positioned. So as you can see on my right, the river walk joins up with me at this point. Here you have an Essex vineyard. So, such as, what is it, hops? Yeah, might be hops, not sure. Approaching Mill Dam on the map. The vineyard isn't marked, so new is it. If it is a vineyard, like I say, I'm not sure. Pleasant setting in front of the mill dam. Just here. Views on the other side of the mill dam. A couple of 100 metres there of walking alongside a busy road. Thankfully there's a footpath. So you come off of the track from the road, across this footbridge, with what I now know to be Brightlingsea Manor up there on that hillock on your right, and we continue towards the corner of that wood over there, luckily across a field of sheep. Okay, there was a field of cows to be crossed with a bull in amongst them. Funnily enough, he was the one that was least interested in me. It's the cows and their calves that were paying me more attention. Anyway, rather than walk through them, I took a wide girth around the edge of the field. It seems to have done the trick. It didn't follow me, and saves a lot of time, because you've got to cross this field to get into Brightlingsea. Don't fancy going back on myself and walking along the road. And this is an occasion when it does apply. Interesting. Brightlingsea sank Port Liberty. Sponsored by the Luncheon Club, which sounds tasty. You have in mind soon. So after a couple of more 100 metres of busy road walking again, you turn right down this shingled track, clearly marked on the GPS. Right, okay, the GPS would take me down there, but clearly that's not an official footpath, which comes out here from this housing estate. So I'm going to have to cut through the housing estate, get back on the main road by the looks of it, because this route down towards the Colne is not doable. So unfortunately now you've got about 10 minutes of quite bland walking through a housing estate. Clearly at the site of what was the old railway station here, with the railway tavern still opposite. My onward journey is clearly marked for me ahead. There is also opposite there a co-op in what looks like an old railway building. Once again, lots of redevelopment going on, luxury flats. Good to see though. I'd rather this than greenbelt development. Got Chippy here, which doesn't open until next Monday, ironically, 24th of June. Yachtsman's Arms opposite. And here you've got a Sank Port wreck house, circa 1809. Interesting, I didn't think they existed outside of Kent. Clearly they do. And that is said building. former pub there. Well, I think it's a former pub. It could still be the coach house. Find out in a minute. Lots of new money around here going into these new developments. So there you go, 3 o'clock, commemorated in 2012. So apparently I've just been in the harbour office and they're advising people not to travel to West Mersea today, believe it or not, or East Mersea even. The reason being that a number of bugs have decided to swarm today, story of my life, and a number of people that have gone over there are all coming back itchy and moaning. Now whether they're lightweights or not I don't know, but I have no option. I have to go, but that would just be the story of my life. Anyway, there's those luxury apartments. Colne Yacht Club behind me, and what used to be the pub is no longer. It's now a residence. So 3:20, 2 hours 40 to get here so far, which is quite a slow pace, but no worries. And lunch is about to be had, just in time for the 4 o'clock and last ferry today. Interesting and unusual happenings for one of my walks. All goes on at the seaside. Waiting to board the ferry to Mersey and face the bugs. My camera fell on the floor, unfortunately, while I was eating my lunch. Nicely new varnished bench, and it slid off. God knows what damage I've done to it, let's see. But as I've said over the last few months, it needs replacing anyway, really. Hasn't been performing. The lighting seems to have gone. Probably all the more so now. Anyway, looking back at Brightlingsea, decent little resort. There's a number of regulations to be adhered to prior to boarding. Brussels health and safety again. Didn't used to be like this in the old days. Looks like we've got the lesser of two evils in the prime ministerial race. Will either of them give us Brexit though? So here we are on the jetty, looking back at apparently these some of these flats are for community housing. Unbelievable. They knock out around 400, 350,000, $500,000 for the penthouse.
Yep. So I'll top him off. It's definitely. I'll pick anybody up. Yeah.
And that was apparently a former hotel.
You might want to come here.
And once upon a time, where these luxury apartments are now, used to be herring and mackerel fishery factories.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
And here's our vessel. That's Point Clear over there, which unfortunately they can't land on at the moment because of high tides stops the ferry from landing. So even if I wanted to go to Point Clear, last vessel would have been at 3:30.
Oh, we saw the boats doing it.
Oh, right. Lovely.
It's lovely over there.
That's the luxury apartments interspersed with social housing. Beach hut city. Choppy out here.
Where we are now, in a low tide.
So here we are.
To perfection.
Now in Mersey, East Mersea. There's Brightlingsea, just 9-minute ferry ride.
Yes, they are.
So one view, final view of the Brightlingsea and associated Point Clear area. And then the path that I took this morning. Very interesting chap, the harbour master there on the boat. 45-minute cruise up to Wivenhoe that they do, 26 quid I think it is. Up to the Black Boy pub for lunch. Reminders of the Second World War. You can see how the sands have built up over time, just as the river is silting up now. The tide, by all accounts, is now pretty much at its maximum. 5.2 metre tide is the maximum they have. It's 4.8 at the moment. Got some pretty decent walking now on a hard surface, having had a couple of 100 metres of shingle. Now entering Cudmore Country Park. Very pleasant little lesser known area this. Interestingly, the sun is still shining where I left. Not here on Mersey though. Bench dedicated to lifelong islanders. Good on them. So just leaving East Mersea Flats National Nature Reserve behind us. Google that if you want to learn more. Now got a large information panel here about the Colne Estuary National Nature Reserve. So from one into another, and here there's been sightings of ring plover, common tern, dark-bellied brent geese, oyster catcher and redshank. Then on my left, on the coastal side, you've got something called Cudmore Grove World War II Trail, which is interesting. Again, Google that if you're interested. Cudmore Grove World War II Trail. In fact, my onward journey is in fact along the beach, not the other way, which will take you onto roads. The other way being up there. In fact, the tide's too high to complete the journey along the beach, so I'm taking this path which runs along the cliff top. These Essex oaks, or sisal oaks I think they are much smaller than the traditional oak that we're used to seeing. Good to see an abundance of them down here though. And luckily for me, the swarm of flies doesn't seem to be around any longer. So just as well I've come over, not that I had any option. Okay, leaving Cudmore Grove Country Park, and because of the high tide, and the GPS doesn't tell you this, whereas notes would, I'm having to take a diversion around the caravan park. It's ridiculous that you still can't walk along cliff edges, etc. in this day and age. So I'm going to have to continue leaving the coastal route for a second. Well, a couple of miles actually, because of the holiday parks disallowing access. So I'll get back down there as soon as I can. So it's a little bit of rural road walking at the moment. As you can see, there is a footpath there, but I'm not going to take it for the very reason I just mentioned. So just after this pub, the Dog and Pheasant, there's a footpath on the left that will get me back down to the coastal path. So finally off the road after several hundred metres, just past the Dog and Pheasant, walking alongside a field of rape. £5:15 now, and I'm at East Mersea Parish Church. So in fact, having to follow a diversion means we're getting a bit more variety into the walk. Yeah, that is one very old church. Church doesn't seem to have a name. Our onward journey's down that lane, past what appears to be a water tower. Looking back at East Mersea and its church. See, there you've got the caravan parks that are preventing access to the coast path down there. So the GPS version is really only feasible when the tide's low. Filming this from a point where the footpath is actually closed down to the beach anyway, from June the 1st I noticed, near Roozle's farm on the map. Good to see oats growing down this way, must be cool enough for them. Interesting use of an old barn. Passing yet another vineyard and Maria's vintage tea room. Seems to be an increasingly popular activity now in the UK, particularly down south here. Now entering Essex Outdoors, Young People's Outdoor Centre, but this is in fact the way the footpath goes. But hopefully will take me down to the cliff top again and on. Onward journey's clear. I think this is probably an old military site looking at the road surface. We've got some of this unusual headed plant growing up in a field near me. I'm wondering if it's flax. If this head will turn blue soon and become flax, don't know. There was an article in the Walk magazine for Ramblers this month. No mention of this kind of plant though. Now back on a blowy coast path with a wind farm in the distance there. Thankfully now walking along the seawall. And another chalet village on my right. Those two white blocky buildings over there on my left are the decommissioned Bradwell B is it, and Bradwell C, can't remember, nuclear plants. And then ironically, just a little way to the left of them, you have today's so-called eco-alternative. So you take your pick. These ugly things that upset nature, or the nuclear alternative. Or of course, you could go wave power. excellent examples here of sea thistle. Amazing. Never seen so many chalets in a row. 107 of them at least, from the numbers on the fronts of them. Very colourful. Okay, we leave the beach now after some pretty tough walking on sand and shingle, I must admit. Haven't done this for a while. And very pleasant evening it is. Done about 12 mile already because of the diversion today, and about 4 hours of walking, so a bit more than I was anticipating, but no problem. Interesting concept. They provide pickers and bags. Very good idea. Very interesting old Essex house there. So it seems I've just left Monkey Beach, and there's a boardwalk here to St Peter's Well for those that are interested. Self-explanatory. So yeah, here we are. Bus has just turned up, the 1850. It's 1840 now, and it's an hour from here on the bus to Colchester station, although this one doesn't go there directly. So I shall conclude this at Colchester station, no doubt. Okay, back at Colchester. Today's walk was around 13 mile in 5 hours 15 minutes. Very decent walk it was as well, particularly the first half, seeing as the walk is essentially two halves. The section after the ferry ride was spoilt rather by the fact that you can't do the coast path at high tide, so a diversion was needed, and consequently that added to the mileage. Officially that's an 11-mile walk, but like I say, I've ended up doing 13. Anyway, highly recommended. So until the next time,